Hey guys, it's Miss Lewis coming to you with the read aloud of chapters 30 and 31 of One Crazy Summer. Chapter 30 begins on page 192, The Third Thing. Who would have thought 20 flyers could have brought more than 1,000 people to the park? Talk about a grand Negro, a grand black spectacle. People simply came, filling up every inch of green in the park. Some even climbed oak trees and perched in branches for a good spot. Everywhere you turned, there were college students in t-shirts, signing people up for sickle cell anemia testing and voter registration. Black Panthers from around the country in sky blue t-shirts with pictures of Black Panthers on them stood tall, patrolling the park. Policemen also stood tall, holding on to their wooden clubs. And yet, I wasn't afraid. I was excited. You see, Sister Makumbu said, waving her bangled arm like a wand over the hundreds of people, maybe 1,000. I feel ashamed of the pride I take in ironing a crease extra sharp. Ironing a sharp crease is a job well done. Bringing people to this rally was magic that you had soaring above trees. It was certainly worth marching up to the no-sayers. In my mind, all these people came to the rally because our summer camp helped spread the word. The idea of radio announcements, the Black Panther newspaper, and word of mouth hadn't entered my mind. If only Cecile could see what we'd done. And Pa and Big Ma. They put the young people's presentations on first, before all the speeches and the musicians and the adult poets. Our play was awkward, with Sister Pat following us around with the microphone, but we continued on as if we rehearsed that way. The first time Janice Ankton heard her voice boom out over all those loudspeakers, she jumped back. She soon overcame her amplified voice and proved a bigger ham than Vanetta on her showiest and crowiest days. Janice brandished her silver-capped gun at us, tired and scared runaway slaves, more than Sister Pat's script had called for. All I knew was the crowd liked it, and that was enough for Harriet Tubman, who proclaimed, "Either you want to be free, or you want to be scared slaves." She was supposed to have said, "I haven't lost a passenger yet." The crowd went crazy, and Janice soaked it up. Eunice kicked her sister the way I had to sometimes put Vanetta in her place. It worked. Janice stopped waving her silver-cap shooter at us and went on with the play as Sister Pat had written it. After Harriet Tubman freed the slaves, Hirohito and the boys showed off their karate kicks and chops and jiu-jitsu moves. Eunice, Janice, and Beatrice changed into their matching African print head wraps and dresses sewn by their mother. I was certain Vanetta would be eaten up with jealousy after Janice's loud, dramatic performance was soon to be followed by her dancing in that cute matching outfit. Instead, Vanetta had been awfully quiet while we waited for our turn to go on stage. I feared the worst with Vanetta's sunken mood. This had happened just before the tip-top-tap disaster. A quiet Vanetta was a scared Vanetta. That meant I'd have to dance her part or, in this case, say her part if her eyes bugged out and her mouth didn't open. Then afterward I'd have to there her for the next 2 weeks. "Vanetta, you ready?" She nodded. If I didn't make her talk, we were doomed. "What's that, Vanetta?" Another nod. Now I was mad. Mad because this was the same Vanetta who had stubbornly wanted to sing "Dry Your Eyes" before all of these people. This was the same Vanetta who had recited "We Real Cool" until it drove Cecile to a cussing fit. This was Vanetta who had said, "We should do this poem." And, as usual, I would have to go out there and finish the mess Vanetta started. "Vanetta, don't make me kick you." "Better not," she said. Good. At least our mouth opened and 2 words came out. "And I'm ready for your information." "I'm ready," Fern piped up. "I'm ready like Freddie. I'm ready and steady. I know a boy in my class named Eddie Larson. But Larson doesn't go with ready and steady." Then she barked, "Arf, arf!" Vanetta and I looked at each other, then at Fern. Vanetta said, "Fern, what are you talking about?" Fern smiled and sang, I saw something. Then she clapped it out like we were still on the East Bay bus. The karate boys had run off the platform while the crowd still cheered. I hadn't been paying attention because I was worried about Vanetta. But when Hirohito ran over, I said, "That was really neat." Sister Pat pushed us to the stage and we marched out before all those people. Vanetta was supposed to introduce us and say the name of our poem and that our mother wrote it. But I could see her eyes growing big and her face ashen. I whispered the two things I knew would get her going. I said, "Hirohito's watching, and Janice hopes you trip." Vanetta's face ripened to a peach. She grabbed the microphone pole like Diana Ross, stepped out in front of us, her Supremes, then cleared her throat. "I birthed the Black Nation by our mother, Nzila, the Black poet. All the power to all the people." The crowd roared and waved their fists. Maybe they carried on because she was a little girl making big sounds. Maybe they cheered for Nzila, who was now a known political prisoner. To Vanetta, they cheered for her, and she was set to show and crow. Vanetta, "I birthed a Black nation. From my womb, black creation spilled forth to be stolen, shackled, dispersed. Me. I dispatched black warriors, raged against unjust barriers, to find the black and strong had fallen, divided, deceived, overcome. Fern. Black oceans separate us, tortured cries, songs of black greatness still echo in my canal. Vanetta, Fern, and me hear the reverberation of a stolen black nation, forever lost to foreign shores, where thieves do not atone, and Mother Africa cannot be consoled. All that was missing was Cecile to see and hear us recite our poem. I'm sure she wouldn't have appreciated Vanetta sprinkling black into her poem like pepper, but the crowd loved it, and we went along, following Vanetta's lead, throwing in the word black as she had. Following each other was easy. We've been doing it for as long as we could all talk. Saying Cecile's words, one after another, felt like we were bringing her into our conversation instead of turning our voices on her like we had. When we finished, we were supposed to exit the platform, me first, Vanetta second, and Fern last. We walked off the stage and over to the wing. That was what I was certain we'd done. Then I turned and saw Fern still standing in the center of the stage. I went to get her, but Sister Pat was already walking out. Fern wouldn't leave. She said something to Sister Pat, who nodded and adjusted the microphone down to Fern's mouth. Then she left Fern alone on stage. The crowd quieted and waited, but Fern stood up without saying a word. Again I went to get little Fern, but Sister Makumbu grabbed my shoulder. "Wait, Delphine. Let her." Sister Makumbu had no idea how hard it was for me to watch my baby sister stand alone before all those people. They could laugh at her, shout at her to get off the stage, or boo her into tears. But Fern balled her fist, banged them at her side, and then she spoke. "My mother calls me the little girl, but this is a poem by Fern Gaither, not little girl. This is a poem for Crazy Kelvin. It's called A Pat on the Back for a Good Puppy." She cleared her throat. Crazy Kelvin says, "Off the pig." Crazy Kelvin slaps everyone 5. The policeman pats Crazy Kelvin on the back. The policeman says, "Good puppy." Crazy Kelvin says, "Arf, arf, 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 arf." Because I saw the policeman pat your back, Crazy Kelvin. Surely did. 2 things happened just then. Really, 3 things. First, the crowd went wild for Fern Gaither. Janice Ankton folded her arms and told Una she didn't want to go on stage and dance after Fern had grabbed up all the applause. Second, Crazy Kelvin backed away. I think he was searching for the best way to get out of the park, but he was surrounded by Black Panthers. They knew what Fern had said, even though it took Vanetta and me a little longer to really understand what Fern had said and seen, and what it meant. Luckily for Crazy Kelvin, there were enough policemen to step in and get him out of the park. It's funny about Crazy Kelvin. If he hadn't gone on and on about racist pigs, Fern would have never asked herself, what's wrong with this picture? I'm sure it had more to do with Miss Pattycake and him telling her who she could love. I'm sure it had more to do with him telling her who she was. Fern had Crazy Kelvin in her sights, and she got him with his own words. What's wrong with this picture? There was a third thing that happened just then, only I didn't know it at the time. Cecile told it to me in a letter a month later. And that thing, the third thing was, a poet had been born. It wasn't Longfellow, Cecile had written, but it was a running start. Chapter 31. So, although the rally was still going strong, Vanetta, Fern, and I couldn't get down into the crowd fast enough once we had spotted Cecile. We weren't the hugging type, but we were all happy. We were happy Cecile had been released from jail and happy she was there to see us on stage reciting I Birthed the Nation. Thanks to Vanetta, now people call Cecile's poem I Birthed the Black Nation. I had braced myself for her crazy anger at us for disturbing her poem like we disturbed her quiet. But she didn't mention one word about all the black we'd thrown into her poem. In fact, Cecile just seemed different after having been locked up. She even limited her disguise to her big shades. She was feeling so good, in a way that I think I could only make out, that she even gave us compliments. Vanetta got hers at my expense. Cecile said, "See that, Delphine? You need to speak up like Vanetta. Now that's how you recite a poem." She might as well have said Vanetta was Hollywood's Black Shirley Temple. Vanetta lived on Cecile's praise for the rest of the summer and into the next year. To Fern, Cecile said, "Who said you could write a poem?" Fern said, "I didn't write it, I said it." "Shirley did," Cecile said, beating her to it, and we all laughed. What Cecile didn't say was Fern's name. Fern didn't seem to notice, but I did. I waited for Cecile to give me my share of praise. I didn't need it heaped on like my sisters did, but I knew it would be good, because mine would come last. For a change, I planned to roll around in it and grin like a dummy. But then some of the organizers of the rally swarmed Sister Enzyla and Little Enzyla. They fussed over Fern, telling her how brave and clever she was. The organizers had also made time for Enzyla to speak of her unjust arrest, but Cecile waved her opportunity away. "Y'all heard my daughters," she said, more tired than proud. "They said it all for me." Vanetta, Fern, and I hugged Sister Macumbu and Sister Pat and told them we had a great time at the People's Center summer camp. They praised our work, praised Fern's bravery, Vanetta's loud, strong voice, and my being a leader and a helper. They told Sister Enzyla all about us, and they wanted us back next year. The rest of the rally was all the speeches about Huey Newton and Bobby Hutton. Cecile said she wasn't staying for that, even though she could have been the star of the day. She said, "Y'all can stay and run around with your friends. Tomorrow you'll be on the plane to New York." Vanetta and Fern ran off with Janice and Beatrice. Eunice and I found a place to sit and share a bag of chips. I told her we would be flying to New York the next day. She asked if we were coming back. I said I didn't know. I suggested we become pen pals and write each other letters once a month. That sounded okay to her. Neither one of us was really a talker or a run-around player, so we just sat there. Hirohito found us sitting and jumped into a karate pose. "Did you see me?" "We saw you, Hirohito," Eunice said. "It would have been better if you broke some boards like they do on TV." She demonstrated with a karate chop to a pile of air boards. He didn't really look at her. He looked at me. "Want to ride on my go-kart?" I didn't know how to be with Hirohito while Eunice was there. I just said no and looked at my sneakers. I felt my face growing warm. My feet were too big for a 6th grade girl. "Hirohito, you let a girl on your go-kart? Your precious go-kart?" I couldn't tell if Eunice was teasing him or mad at him. "Yeah, so? You like Delphine." I hit her on the shoulder like she was Vanetta. She didn't seem to mind. Teasing Hirohito and making me feel silly seemed to provide Eunice with an entertainment and satisfaction. She put her hand over her mouth to gasp. I can't believe you, Delphine. You like Hirohito. You're just as bad as Janice and your sister. This was the second time Eunice had gotten me, and both times had to do with Hirohito. I never had anyone over me like a sister or brother, and didn't know how to answer back. I didn't want to deny it in case he liked me too, but I wasn't about to be the one to say it in words. I hadn't even said it to myself yet. Eunice wouldn't let up. She was finally enjoying herself. Hirohito Woods, I can't believe you let a girl ride on your go-kart. So? I said without smiling like Cecile does. Besides, he could have said, I don't like her, or she's too tall, or she's too plain. He could have said what all the boys in my class said. I wouldn't like her if she were the last girl on earth. Instead, Hirohito said, so. Like, okay. Like it was okay to like Delphine. I said it too. So. Alright. That chapter ends on page 203. See you tomorrow.